by the sea. I live in beautiful Dorset and I'm published by HarperCollins. Mostly the Love London series, as you can see over my right hand shoulder. I started vlogging last week, so thank you to anyone who watched Getting Published No Magic Formula, and I hope you got some useful hints and tips from that. I was with friends last night over dinner and we were talking about me having recently signed up with a literary agent, and they said, you know, this sounds like a great story, you need to tell it. So I thought I would share it with you. You know, when I was an aspiring author, I loved hearing stories about how people got agents, how people got publishers. So I started writing in 2010 seriously to try and get published, and it's now nearing the end of 2019 and I've just got an agent. So it's not quite the route that I thought that I would take in terms of my writing career. But actually I still feel like I'm quite, you know, I'm not that far on in terms of my writing and publishing journey actually. I'm multi-published, you know, I've had 3 short stories, 5 novellas and 2 full-length novels published. I've just handed in another novel to Charlotte Ledger, my lovely editor at HarperCollins, and I'm now working on another book with my agent Hattie. But actually, you know, I'm happy to share my knowledge and my experiences, but by no means do I know everything. But in terms of getting an agent, it's an interesting one. So I suppose the important thing to ask, you know, really is what does an agent do and why do you need one? And some people, they don't need agents and they don't feel that, you know, they need one particularly. They feel that they want to go it alone, they're happy to self-publish, or they're unagented and they approach publishers who will take in submissions from unagented authors. For me, an agent is someone who is a passionate advocate of your work and your writing. It's someone who can steer you in the right direction. You know, they're going to broker those deals with the publishers for you, they're going to negotiate contracts for you. If you're lucky, it's an agent who's going to give you editorial advice and feedback as well and help you make, you know, your book the best it possibly can be. So in terms of getting an agent, I had a couple of close calls, you know, brushes with getting an agent over the years, but as I said, it's taken me 9 years to get an agent. I did my fair share of sending out, you know, 5 query letters with submission packages, so normally the first few chapters of your book. You know, I was sending out 5 at a time and kind of waiting anywhere from 6 to 12 weeks to get a response back. And whilst I got some really polite responses, not a sniff of interest. So that was probably back in 2012-ish, so before I got published. And you know, for me, an agent is someone that you will work in partnership with, so the timing has to be right. So I started looking for an agent again a few years ago, probably in 2015-16. Again, I was sending out query emails and sending out, you know, submission packages. Didn't really get any interest again. I don't think it was the right book, it wasn't the right time. I possibly wasn't confident enough in terms of what I was putting forward. I then ran into Hattie Grunwald, who's now my agent, at a winter party for the Romantic Novelists Association, and I pitched a book to her, an idea. And she was interested, and she then read Valentine's on Primrose Hill, which is a Love London novella, a romance set in London. And you know, she really liked it and she asked to see more of my work. And then my editor Charlotte at HarperCollins, she asked me to London and she asked me to write a story, a book around a particular concept. So I thought I'll focus on writing that book and then I will come back to looking for an agent and maybe, you know, I'll get in contact with Hattie again. Well, little did I know it would take me 2.5 years to actually finish that book, for a variety of reasons. You know, some personal things that were going on. Professionally, I moved jobs a few times, and actually it was quite a painful book to write in a way because I suffered some bereavements about 6 months or so before I started writing that book, and I found it difficult to write for quite some time. So it took me quite a long time to write that book. But just before I was ready to submit it to Charlotte, I started thinking I really need to look for an agent now. I need to get serious about it. I've got some books published under my belt. I'm ready for the next step of my career. So to cut a very long story short, I got in contact with Hattie again, and happily she invited me to a meeting in London in September. And I actually met with her and Rory Scarf, who is Louise Jensen's agent. I love Louise Johnson. You know, she writes great psychological thrillers. And yeah, so I met with Rory and Hattie and had possibly the best 2 hours of my writing career to date. But we talked about the book that I was just about to finish writing, and my idea for my next book, and what my aspirations were for my writing, where I want to go next. And I felt very confident and very inspired by what they both had to say. I was incredibly nervous because Hattie is an agent with the Blair Partnership. So the Blair Partnership, the founder is Neil Blair, and he is J.K. Rowling's agent. And they also run Pottermore, so Harry Potter and the merchandise. And then also they have a TV and film production company. So when I went up for the meeting, I was completely fangirling. There was Harry Potter stuff everywhere in these offices. And when Roy was talking about Joanne, J.K. Rowling in the meeting, my heart was kind of beating out his chest, and I was thinking, I really want this. Happily, Hattie offered me representation on the spot. And I pretty much bit her hand off. I said yes straight away. Being someone who works in human resources as the day job, I did actually do some due diligence beforehand. So I had done lots of reading about the kinds of deals that Hattie had struck for people. I looked at the kind of things that she represented. I spoke to authors who were represented by her, so I kind of gathered all that information. And I knew from previous meeting with her that I liked her. I do think that getting an agent, it's very much going to be a partnership. You need to get on with that person, and it's a bit like speed dating. You spend a couple of minutes with someone, and I think you get that instinctive feeling around, do I like this person and do I want to be with them? And I absolutely had that instinct with Hattie. Hattie worked at Blake Friedman before. So Blake Friedman, big agency set up partly by Carol Blake, who was an absolute powerhouse in the publishing industry before she sadly passed away. Hattie is smart, she's savvy, she is passionate about books, she's ambitious for herself but also for her authors, and she's direct and straight talking. And I like honesty, I like people to be transparent with me. And she's really responsive. If I email her, I get an email pretty much back within the same day. So that's lovely that I have that with her. But I really feel that she will help take me, my writing career to the next step. And what I wanted to share with you today was that she is actually open to submissions. So she is looking for new authors to represent at the moment. Her Twitter handle is here. So if you want to look up on Twitter, she's put some details recently about the kind of thing that she's looking to represent, the kind of genres she's looking for, and I would highly recommend her. Some other tips in terms of finding an agent, just some things to think about. So I mentioned Carol Blake. From Pitch to Publication is my writing Bible. So I bought this a really long time ago. The pages are actually yellowed with age and very, very well thumbed. But it gives you a great starting point as an aspiring author, about the publishing industry. The other thing is the Writers and Artists Yearbook. So this is the They're Getting Published guide, but actually every year they publish basically a directory, and it's got all the publishers and all the agents. And what you want to do is you want to have a look around at the agents and find the agents that are looking for people in your genre. There's no point approaching an agent who only looks to represent children's authors if actually you're writing mainstream commercial fiction aimed at adults. So think carefully about, what's going to be a good match. Do your research, join writing associations. As I said, I first met Hattie at a Romantic Novelist Association winter party, and there's some great networking with the RNA, but there are other writers associations. Join writer circles and writers groups. Go along to talks that agents give, because they're often happy to talk at the end of the session, and meet people and say hello, and do have a look at how to approach them. So a good submission package. Nowadays it's email. When I first started out, it was you package everything up in a big brown envelope and you waited, it went off, you waited for sometimes months to hear anything back. Nowadays most agents accept email submissions. They're looking for a great query letter that sets out the concept of your book, a kind of almost strapline or elevator pitch, what's the concept, and a bit about you and your writing, and also the first 3 chapters normally of your book. And if there's one thing I would say to you is make sure that they are polished as much as possible. Don't be in such a rush to send that submission out to agents that you send it out before it's ready. Make sure you look at it carefully, you know, over and over again to make sure it's right. You want to look professional, you know, you want to be personable in your approach. And then, you know, I would also say is sending out multiple queries. So, you know, it's okay to send out 5 or 6 agent queries at a time. If one of them then comes back to you and says, you know, I'm interested in seeing more, or I want to meet with you, then, you know, you can go and do that. And you can always say, you know, I've queried with other agents, and you're absolutely fine to go back to those other agents and say, actually, I'm now meeting with someone, or, you know, if you're lucky enough to get offered representation, that, you know, you can then say to them, actually, I've got an agent now. But, you know, I think it's almost a bit like job interviews. You keep your opportunities open, and then you have to make that kind of decision for yourself. I hope that's been useful. I'm always open to questions. Please do get in contact with me via Twitter. I'm also on Facebook as Nikki Moore Writes. I'd love to hear from you. If you enjoyed this vlog and you found any of it useful at all, then please, you know, like it, share it, subscribe to the channel, and you know, please put a comment below. And yeah, you know, don't be afraid to get in contact. I'm very open to sharing my experiences with aspiring authors, and I really love to hear those experiences, as I said, when I was first starting out. But yeah, I hope that's been useful. Have a great week and take care of yourselves. Bye.